Hi, folks. It's Keith, Victor Echo 3 Sierra Victor Quebec, and on Morse code, Victor Alpha 3 Kilo Echo India. I'm going to try something a little different today. I'm looking at this from the viewpoint, and this came up even when I was doing it, um, getting ready to get on the air. So at this point, we assume you know your numbers, you know your letters, you know some of your punctuation, the key ones, and you're getting anxious to get on the air. First off, how good can you copy? Most of us are not when we start. We're not copying 15, 20, or whatever words a minute. We're a little bit lower than that. 10, 11, 12, 13, somewhere down there. So I'm assuming at this point, like I say, you know your numbers and your letters and that. And now you're fine tuning things, getting ready for that big moment when you go on the air. So one of the complaints I hear most often, and I see sometimes in Facebook groups and whatever, is I can't find anyone sending slow speed. There's no one to copy. They're all too fast. And that actually isn't correct. There are lots of people sending in what we would call slow speed Morse code, QRS, slow speed. Where are they is the issue. Now, you can do a lot of different things. You can just scroll the bands and keep looking, and it's actually fun to do that, especially if it's a quiet day or on a weekend. Just spin the dial, trying to pick people up, trying to get that one person sending at a speed that you realize you can copy. So you can do it that way. There are other ways too. There are what we call CALL frequencies. Different clubs and organizations have frequencies that they don't own. No one owns those frequencies, but they have frequencies that some of their members go to when they want to do a CQ call and get a conversation going. And sometimes they're maybe just slightly to the left or right of that frequency. So if you dial in some of those, you're going to find people. Some obviously will be sending very quick, but there will be a number of people sending much slower. And this is what you need as your final tune-up, if you might call it. Because what you've been doing for the most part is listening to the perfect code a computer sends. Months and months of it. If you're using a computer program to learn Morse code, you're getting perfect code sent to you. If you're on something like the Long Island CW Club site, we practice. They have a Morse practice page. For those that are trying to do it on their own, the LCWO page, you can go there. But it's computer generated. It's not real life. So find someone sending and receiving in slow speed. You'll hear all sorts of problems. You'll see interference. You'll see signals going up and down based on conditions. You'll see people who send really sloppy Morse code. And you'll see those people who are sending really beautiful Morse code. That's real life. That's what will happen when you actually get on the air yourself and call CQ, or if you try to answer somebody. So those are the things you have to keep in mind. As part of your preparation for getting on the air, you need to practice your sending. Practice it a lot. All right. We all generally send faster than we receive, but your sending has to be good. And the first thing you have to know how to send is your own call sign. Seems simple. It isn't. Picture the person on the other end with all sorts of static and noise and people tuning up around him. Is he going to be able to pick that call sign out? The other thing you have to do is know what your call sign is like, because the other operator is going to send you back your call sign to say, yeah, I heard you, come back. Can you recognize your own call sign? Seems really simple. Try it. Take your phone, put it on voice memo or whatever they call it on your smartphone. Get your oscillator or your radio ready to go. get your key ready, send your call sign, maybe 10 times, then listen and play it back. Does that sound like your call sign? Does that sound like what you thought you sent? Be interesting. Now that you're hearing your call sign, would you be able to pick that out of the noise? All right, because that's another issue altogether. So those are some of the things you do to get ready for this. Now, if you are a member of some of the various clubs out there, well, they will help you with that. How is your Morse code key set up? Is it set up properly? You buy it on Amazon or you buy it from a radio shop somewhere, or maybe it's one that someone gave you, who knows how many years ago. Is it clean? Have you cleaned it up? Do you know how to clean it up properly? Is it set up properly for your fist, for your hand? Is the tension the way it should be? These are things that you can get ready for. There are ways, you can find a lot of this stuff online. And like I say, if you're in some of the clubs, the LICW, they have classes where they'll help you do all of that. Those are the things you're working on. Now, you would be surprised sometimes at how your Morse code sounds. Send a paragraph or two. Tape it. Listen to it. You can check what you sent because you've got the copy there. How good was it? Now that you're listening to yourself send, could you interpret that if you were another person? That, again, is one of those things you have to do. Listen, look for sites where you can find slow speed. So where are they? Now, generally speaking, you're going to find slower operators if you're on the 40-meter band, somewhere down around 7025 up to about 7060. You tend to get slower operators in that range, some of them very good ones too. If you go below that, 725, 726, now you're getting into the operators who are exceptionally good. And these are the ones doing DX from all over the world. So if you scroll down and you want to listen to some really fast CW, that's where you go. But certainly 7025 to 7060 and 7100 to 7.120, which was the old Novice band many, many years ago. You will find slower operators in that area. If you look at some of the organizations out there, certainly LICW, they have some frequencies, which I'll post later on at the end of this one. The SKCC, Straight Key Century Club, fabulous group, it's free to join. They have their own calling frequencies as well. And again, you can go down to those. And I found that overall, I think they were the most useful in trying to listen for what I would call slow speed Morse code, something under 12 or 13 words per minute. Lots of operators are in there, all times of the day. It doesn't really matter when. FISTS, FISTS, is another organization that promotes, the old-fashioned Morse code. They are out there as well. They have some frequencies that their people like to use. So there's lots of different spots. If you go up into the 20-meter band, 14025 again to about 14060, 14.100 to 14.120. Again, you tend to find slower operators in there. So those are just some of the spots that you can go to. Now, I mentioned in a previous video using the reverse beacon network. And it's a good video. It shows you how to do it. And there you can set the speed that you want to listen to. In other words, you can say, I'll set it at 12 words a minute. So the only ones that are going to come on your computer screen are people doing 12 or less words per minute. So it's a good way to build your speed because you can control to a certain extent what you're listening to. And again, it's real life Morse code. Those are just some of the areas. And then probably one of my favorite ones is Parks on the Air. There's a very real possibility that when you make your first radio contact, and at this point, you should be getting ready for it. good possibility it's going to be somebody sitting in a park, activating a park. And it's loads of fun. And that's actually how I got back on the air, was hunting parks. There's a protocol or a procedure that they follow when you're contacting them. It's very simple. And we'll get into that another day as to how you can set some of this up, but you can make a cheat sheet so that you know what they're going to say, you know what you have to say, and it's a very simple contact. Now, many of these operators who go into these parks on the CW side, they schedule it. So that reverse beacon network I just mentioned, it'll catch their signal when they're calling CQ. And it will post on the park's website, on the POTA website, you know, the name of the person, the park they're at, and then the name of the beacon that spotted it, and the speed they're sending at. So, you can scroll through, and not every day you're going to find someone doing, 12, 13, 14, 15 words per minute, but they're there. I find most of them tend to be there more on weekends because during the week, during the day, I have a feeling it's a lot of retired guys in there. Boy, are they good. They're way up into the 20s word per minute. But definitely on weekends, you can find more. And it's a good opportunity to, try the different bands. Now, if you find that, let's say 20 and 40, especially 20 is very busy, very crowded with people, parks on the air, check the other bands. Check 15, check 10. Because I find very often those bands are quieter. There's far fewer people. So if you're trying to copy someone, it's a lot easier. And down the road, when you want to make a contact, it's also easier to contact them on there as well because they're not being inundated with all sorts of calls. They're actually looking for someone to call them. And when you do get on the air, most people will slow down to your speed. So if you use those, LICW, SKCC, FIS, POTA, there's lots of people out there doing QRS or slow speed. You just have to find them. And it's probably, when you get down to it, one of the ones that will be the very first contact you make as a new CW operator. One of your very first contacts, I'll say 80-90% chance that's going to be with somebody sitting in a park. So there you go. Just a couple of brief ideas. I will give you some of the frequencies now that you can copy down. Practice real life. Because when you're on the air, believe me, it doesn't sound like a computer. Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor Quebec, and VA3 KEI. Wishing you a great day. Have fun out there. 73.